Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's College for TN webinar. My name is Sara Byrd, and I am the Assistant Director for Statewide Services at the Tennessee Higher Education Commission, and we're really glad that you're spending a little bit of your morning together with us as you wrap up the school year. So even though summer is just around the corner, I know some of us, it feels like it's so close we can almost taste it. There is still some important information for us to share with you guys to help you support your students all the way through the end of the school year and even into next fall. So we have a packed session today, so we are going to go ahead and get started. We have some updates on the annual HOPE GPA verification process in FAST that many of you use, as well as an exciting look ahead with a new direct admissions pilot project, which some of you all have heard about, which will be launching in Tennessee in this coming fall 2025. So we'll get to everything in order here. And I am joined by two of my colleagues from the Tennessee Higher Education Commission. First, we have Jason Seay, who is the Senior Director of Outreach, and he will walk us through the HOPE GPA verification timeline and process and share some of those important reminders for all of us. And then after Jason, you all will hear from Dr. Duane Gregg, who is the Senior Director for College Access Initiatives at the Tennessee Higher Education Commission. And he is going to introduce our brand new statewide initiative to expand access to higher education across Tennessee, and it's our direct admissions program. So whether you're a school counselor, administrator, educator, embedded college access professional, higher education partner, we just hope that today you leave with some clear takeaways and some tools that you can use to support your students as we wrap up the school year. So let's go ahead and get started here. I am going to share my screen and talk to you all a little bit about HOPE GPA reporting. So here we go. Jason, can you just give me a little nod that you can see the slide? Great. Okay, sweet. Suzette Telly is also on here. She knows a lot more about these things than I do. So if anybody has any questions about these, any of these processes, we'll hear from Suzette too. So you have a few options when it comes to reporting GPAs. The first option is for schools and districts that are currently using the Tennessee Electronic Transcript Exchange. You will just upload final senior transcripts as you normally would. So your students' uniform grading policy GPAs should be loaded into FAST. It usually takes about 24 to 48 hours to upload. So if you currently utilize the transcript exchange, you will just use that as you normally would. Let's see if I can keep going here. There we go. Okay, so a little bit about the electronic transcript exchange here. Anyone who's using the transcript exchange, you do not have to manually enter all your students' GPAs into FAST as well. Those systems talk to each other. So check with your school or your district contact to learn when the uploads are planned, when they're planning on uploading those GPAs. And then larger school districts may upload even into the summer. Okay, so what if your transcripts don't list a social security number? This is a question we get sometimes. So FAST will look for a perfect match on the following data points if there's no social security number. It will look for a match on first name, last name, date of birth, and high school code. So we want to make sure that all of those data points are entered onto their transcripts. And obviously not all matches are perfect, so please make sure to wait that 24 to 48 hours after you upload final transcripts through the transcript exchange, then log into FAST to make sure that all your student GPAs have successfully uploaded. You can do a little double check there. So there may be a few that need to be verified manually just in case those matches weren't perfect, but most of them should go straight into FAST following about a 24 to 48 hour waiting period. And it might not be too late for you to use the transcript exchange for 2025. So if you are not currently a member of the exchange, you can email me. My email is listed right there. I'll drop it in the chat as well for more information about getting started with the electronic transcript exchange. And then we have a link here. We'll also post these slides online so you can get to all of this later. But you can find some more helpful resources and tutorials online as well. So if you're not already using the transcript exchange, it is secure, it's fast, it's free. It's a really great resource to be able to send transcripts both to FAST for things like GPA verification and then also for colleges when your students are applying. So, okay, option number 2 is to enter final GPAs through FAST. And I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen here and switch it over to Jason Seay and turn it over to him for some more information about verifying those GPAs.
Sara,
Yes.
excellent job. Excellent job.
Thank you. Thanks, Jason. High praise from Jason C.
Um, Guys, happy Friday. Here's one thing I love learning things on Friday. Sarah, seriously. So this is the first time, I guess about a year we've been using Microsoft Teams. And Sarah, I actually like this idea. I think it's easier to share like screens. Because
Definitely.
sometimes, like in PowerPoint, forgive me, guys, this is me on a Friday, right? But sometimes in PowerPoint, it gets a little clunky or whatever. I think this is a better sharing thing. I like that we learned
I
this today, Sarah.
totally agree. Totally agree. Good teamwork.
So, as I again, Sarah, excellent job on from the for those um, um, kind of reset here again, talking about for Hope Scholarship, for GAMS, for Hope with Aspire purposes. You have those. You have the two options to report GPAs. Sarah just went over those that use the Tennessee Electronic Transcript Exchange. Option number two is to report GPAs via FAST, which stands for the Financial Aid System of Tennessee. For those of you who have been with us a long time, yes, this is the former eGrants product, right? That used to be called eGrants, but option number two is to report GPAs through FAST. What we always ask is, from that lens of Hope Scholarship and GAMS specifically purposes, is please, for those of you who use the FAST option, report those final GPAs for your students that have between the 0 and 20 ACT composite and the 29 up to a 36 ACT composite. That should be loaded within your access to FAST. Now, because this is an annual process, and for some, maybe you're not logging into FAST as often as, let's say, I do. If you become locked out, please understand we have colleagues that work the locked users list during business hours. So generally speaking, if you lock yourself out of FAST, you should expect an email from one of our colleagues with a temporary password. But if not, you can always call our call center at 1-800-342-1663. Their hours are typically 8 to 4:30 Central Time, and if you need to have an account reset as a fast user. Final reminder, again, as always, folks, a reminder. Notice on this slide, I say ACT, ACT, ACT. Many of you know, I mean, the majority of our students do take ACTs in Tennessee. But from a College Board, from an SAT perspective, as a reminder, College Board stopped sending us test results a few years ago. So listen, if you have a student that has taken the SAT and who has achieved that 1060 or better for Hope purposes, or the GAMS equivalent. And folks, don't quiz me on the GAMS equivalent right this second. But that being said, that's something that you can load yourself into FAST on behalf of a student, or reach out to your outreach specialist, or reach out to someone here at the agency to assist you in uploading that, quote unquote, entering that into the system if needed. And again, that's for SAT test takers, because we no longer receive score reports from College Board.
Hey, quick question, Jason, here.
Yeah.
Sorry, before you keep going. We had a question in the chat. Why are ACT's scores between 21 and 28 not in that listed group of numbers that you have there?
Yeah, so great question. Because if I have a 21, a 23, a 28, I'm Hope eligible based upon that ACT alone, right? Same thing if I have a 1060 SAT, I am Hope eligible for that alone. So the GPA doesn't benefit me from that perspective. Sorry, Sarah. The GPA does not benefit me from that perspective. So that's why I have always historically said, the students that you want to hone in on are those with the 0 to 20 who are not eligible based upon their ACT to enter the GPAs from then, because that 21 to 28 group, they're good. They're already eligible based upon their ACT alone. However, as a reminder, while we're on the slide, our students that have that 29 ACT or higher, you do want to enter a GPA for them because of the potential GAMS eligibility. And Sarah,
Sure.
we don't do this. I mean, this annual presentation, we don't do this, and I think we should. I think for everyone, as a reminder, guys, for Hope eligibility, it's a 29 ACT or a final cumulative 3.0 grade point average per the State Board of Education's uniform grading policy. For GAMS eligibility, it's that 29 ACT and a 3.75 final cumulative GPA per the State Board of Education's uniform grading policy. And that's Sarah, I think that's a good reminder. I mean, although a lot of our folks here know that already, there you go. That's a good reminder about why we're having to enter these GPAs.
Perfect. And then just one more question for you on that side.
Yep.
When will those ACT scores populate in FAST? I know you mentioned there being some changes and how that is all working with test scores going into FAST. When can we expect that those scores will populate?
So in theory, guys, I mean, we should have the ACTs in FAST already. I mean, generally speaking, last test date was, I guess, in this case, April, I guess it is the national test date. Sometimes it does take a month or so for, say, the April test dates to load. But for students that probably, whom I'm going to assume maybe have taken their last ACT as of October or December, those results should be in our system. If they're not, this is where I would say either A, you can enter the ACT you can create a record and enter it on your side as an administrator. But as always, if you need help with that, reach out to your outreach specialist, reach out to me, reach out to someone at the agency, and we'll do that. Sarah, I know some folks have chatted like, hey, will these slides be available? And yes, they will. Folks, what we've always done after this, Sarah, you know this, after we send the slides out, at least for this webinar, my team also sends out those helpful one-pagers about how to add an ACT score if one is missing, or if the student's nowhere to be found within your FAST account or whatever. We send those helpful one-pagers out that you can go, that you can look at. But as always, you can reach out to your outreach specialist for more information.
Perfect. And I just put the outreach specialist page, the financial aid info and contact page in the chat as well, so that if anyone is new or doesn't know who their outreach specialist is, you can find their contact information there. So, Okay. Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, Sarah. So guys, just walk through FAST right quick. Once you have logged in, and again, fast.tn.gov, that's the website you go to log into your account. Once you have logged in, this is the screen that you'll be greeted by. This is where you need to select or click on verification and now click student roster. And this is where your roster will display for specifically your 2025 grads. So understand, folks, these are your May 2025 grads. This is why, say, back in January, we always send that annual email out to say, hey, if you had any early grads, December 2024, send us their information at that point in time, because of some limitations we have with the FAST system and also for security purposes as well. That's why we always do that. So just heads up, the students that display on your roster should be your May 25 potential grads. From a filter perspective, you have a couple of different options. Generally speaking, if you select the unverified filter option, this will take you to those students that are your 0 to 20 ACT earners and your 29 and above, those that need that final GPA entered for eligibility establishment. Once you've done that, here's an example of the screen. Look, I have a student, Sara Marrero. Who is that?
Wow, who's that? Never heard of her.
I need to, Sara, I guess for next year we need to update that now. But
That's
that
right.
being said,
give
Sara,
me a good ACT score too. I want a high ACT score, high GPA if I can.
Here's Sara, me, and Suzette, just examples. I mean, folks, this is what you're going to see here. And this is where you simply think of this as an Excel spreadsheet. You're just entering the final GPA of Sara, Jason, and Suzette, and then check that verify HS graduation box and click save. And that's how you enter GPAs within FAST for the system to determine eligibility. Sara, I know a question that we get sometimes is like, Jason, should we only enter GPAs for those that have the 3.0 or better? I've always been on the team, no, enter the GPA for everyone on your quote unquote who is unverified. And the reason selfishly is because oftentimes, I get calls over the summer from folks, or the college, or even you yourself may get calls over the summer saying, well, such and such college doesn't have my final GPA. And, it may be because, well, they didn't have the GPA. Well, no one knows that until it is entered. So I've always been team enter, anyone on your unverified list, enter their final GPA regardless of where it falls within a continuum, right? I mean, if Jason has a 1.5 GPA, God bless him, enter a 1.5 GPA, check that box and click save and move on. Also, while we're on the screen, we'll go to the next screen. This is where you can click ACT. If you see where that says number 2, this is where you can display the ACT, SAT test information for your students. So this is how you can also easily add those test scores. So Sarah, that earlier question we received about, if a student's ACT score is missing, then this is where you can enter it and save that information by simply clicking ACT and then entering the corresponding test date and that ACT composite or the SAT score that they achieved on that date. It's as easy as that. Behind the scenes, folks, just to share this with you, what we've done now, as the program is a decade old, what we have done from a promise perspective is, because ACT scores, sometimes students don't take the ACT, or sometimes we don't receive the student's ACT for some reason. From a promise perspective, as students apply for promise, we also create what I would refer to as a quote dummy record for some of these students that don't have an ACT already in the system, and that is what's populating here at times, where you can just simply go in and then edit that ACT by adding the actual score and the corresponding test date. From a removing record perspective, this is something that you don't have to do. Let me be clear. You do not have to do this, but I know some of my folks out there, they like to have a quote clean roster and stuff like that. So for example, here's Jason C listed 3 different times. And folks, this is something that we've seen for years, where notice, like on this record, that first row of quote me, there I've blacked out the last 4 of my social, right? The other 2, it just says no matching apps. What's happened is, these are additional ACT tests that I have taken, and because the system only latches on to the best score, sometimes there's additional records in the system. If you're someone that's like, Jason, I want to get rid of those, what you simply do is, for the record you want to get rid of, you simply go at the end of the row and click on remove student and click save to remove that record. To be clear, you do not have to do this, but for those of Sarah, I'm going to say, for my perfectionists out there that like that clean roster, that's how you can remove a record or remove a student who may no longer be at your school, because they transferred, say, out of district or out of state or something like that. That's how you remove that student from your roster. Any questions, Sarah, that we need to jump into?
Yes, I have a couple of questions if we just want to kind of like rapid fire.
Sure.
They should be pretty quick. One, can you just confirm which GPA are we using, and weighted or an unweighted? I know it's uniform grading policy. I'm going to assume unweighted.
Yeah, this is it's funny. One of our great colleagues, I'm glad Marion's on to hear this. Marion leads our compliance team. From a public school perspective, right? You have to adhere to that uniform grading policy per the State Board of Education. What the State Board actually says is, as a district, the GPA that adheres to the policy, you're supposed to rename as the Hope Scholarship GPA on your transcript. Right. Sarah, that said, in Metro, that GPA, that Hope Scholarship GPA, Metro has always pointed to quote unquote their unweighted GPA, but other districts do different things. That's why for years I've tried to go away from the whole unweighted weighted thing, because again, it's the uniform grading policy GPA.
Okay.
And this is where, Sarah, some of our friends on here, and we would have a discussion about, well, what's a weighted, what's an unweighted, this, that, and the other. I mean, Sarah, I would say for most of our districts, it's the unweighted GPA, right? Period.
Got it.
And go from there.
Perfect. Another question about rounding. So, how many decimal places can we round to? So somebody asked, if we have a GPA of 2.9967, can that be entered? Can we use 4 decimal places? If not, how are we supposed to be rounding for our GPAs?
Yeah. Another great question. That's one of those that I want, Sarah, and for everyone, how about let's do an FAQ after this?
Okay.
Put a pin in that right quick. Let me triple check that answer and get back to you.
Okay, sure.
So guys, we got another segment here after. Let's put a pin in that question. I will research that hopefully while Duane is doing his section.
Okay, perfect. Another quick question for you. Let's talk about December grads for just a second. So if we have a student who is a December 2024 graduate that we did not send information for previously in the school year, what do we do with them?
Yeah, and specifically in this case, if they did achieve HOPE eligibility in that case, you should be able to do that through a back channel that I can teach you guys. So again, reach out to your outreach specialist or reach out to me. That to be succinct, that's what I would say. Reach out to your outreach specialist or reach out to me, and we will shepherd you through that process to get that December 2024 grad verified.
Perfect. Okay. And then one last question for you. And we touched on this actually in our last webinar, but one person asked that they've heard about the HOPE lottery scholarship funds, them running out of funds. So she asked, will we be able to load their scores in their GPA into FAST before any funds run out?
Yeah.
You want to say anything about that?
Yeah, it's a good question. Hey, appreciate the concern, folks. We're not running out of money. All right. So let's go ahead right now. We're not running out of money yet. What the person has heard is that lottery has experienced a deficit. But again, folks, right now, Hope Scholarship, GAMS, Aspire, Dual Enrollment Grant, Wilder, NAFI, Technical Skills, all those programs that are funded by our lottery, we're good, right? So we're good. So status quo, as we always do, upload those GPAs through the exchange or enter them through FAST, so that your eligibilities can establish for these students and they will see their HOPE Scholarship or Wilder NAFI or whatever it may be as they begin college in the fall. So yeah, I appreciate the question.
Thank you. All right, I'll let you keep going here. Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, and kind of to wind down, I mean, now that we are at the end of the academic year, I know a lot of schools and districts do like to have year-end scholarship numbers. As a reminder, through FAST, if you click reports and then click the high school tab, you have a high school totals reports that you can run for any of our state aid programs. And those would be your year-end numbers for the class of 2025. So if you want to see, once you enter your GPAs and once eligibility is established, and come back here, this is where you can run your total numbers for HOPE Scholarship, Aspire, GAMS, Wilder NAFI, etc. So just heads up about the totals reports that's in the system. Once you do click on the totals reports, as a reminder, always think FAFSA here, because your seniors have completed the 25-26 FAFSA. That's the academic year you need to select, because that is the academic year of the FAFSA that they are completing. Then select 2025 as their grad year, and then select the appropriate state aid program that you want to download the report for. And this is just an example of the report here. The little disk, this is where you can then download the report into Excel or PDF or however you choose to download your report to then share with whomever you need to share. And that being said, Kim, great question. Sorry, Sarah, I saw that one. Kim, honestly, that might be good for you to run it in July, especially from our larger districts. I see Catherine's on here. I think Ashley's on here from Metro. Because Metro often uploads GPAs in early June. And Sarah, as you presented earlier, it can take 24 to 48 hours for those GPAs for eligibility to run in our system. Oftentimes it is smart for a counselor to pull that report maybe a little bit later, so potentially as you're returning for the 25-26 academic year. So Kim, I'll defer to you because generally speaking, folks, eligibility will run at night. If you enter GPAs in FAST right now, today, eligibility should run overnight, whereas if you come into the office on Monday morning, boom, you should have students populating your totals report and stuff like that. So
perfect. Okay. And then I'll just echo a question that we heard in the chat, which is if we put information into FAST, we also need to upload the transcript into the transcript exchange. And the answer, thank you, Suzette, is no, unless you plan on sending final transcripts to the colleges using the exchange. There's no need to do that. Okay, so we will go ahead and move on here. Thank you, Jason. As always, it's such a pleasure. And I feel like I learned something new every single time I get to hear you talk about financial aid. So thank you for all that. We will go ahead and turn it over to Dr. Duane Gregg, who is on here to talk to us about a really exciting new initiative, new project that we're launching fall 2025 here in the state of Tennessee, which is direct admissions. So let me just make sure, Duane, are you on here? We'll get you on our little spotlight, on our little stage for our meeting.
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Perfect. Yes, I can hear you great. Thank you, Duane. And I'm going to go ahead and drop the link to the direct admissions page from College for TN into the chat if anyone wants to learn more about it. But we're really excited to hear from you, Duane. And yeah, without further ado, take it away.
Thank you very much, Sarah. And Jason sees a very hard act to follow. So thank you for everything you shared with us, Jason. And I think a little here in a few minutes, you all will see why we put these two presentations together and how they may tie in as well. My name is Duane Gregg. I'm the Senior Director for College Access Initiatives at the Tennessee Higher Education Commission. But more importantly today, I am part of a group at THEC that is going to be helping to implement this direct admissions pilot study that we are very, very excited about. If I can, Sarah, should I have any problem sharing my screen?
Sure, that would be great.
PowerPoint? Okay.
Awesome. Yep, we can see it. That's perfect. Thanks, Duane.
Okay, so a little bit about direct admissions. And I know that some of you may have already seen a little bit about this in a newsletter or were a part of one of our counselor collaboratives that we attended, but I'm going to just kind of start from the beginning. So as you all are very well aware, for some of our students, just the process of applying to college can just be a lot. And some of our students will start the process and just decide it's too overwhelming and they're just not even going to carry through with it. They're filling out applications. They're trying to find out answers to a lot of questions that they may not be that familiar with. At the same time, the institution is asking them for different types of documents and things like that. And we have a lot of students that just end up giving up during that process. And from an institution standpoint, they're also asking questions that at the Tennessee Higher Education Commission, we probably already have a lot of those answers through things as what Jason and Suzette and Sarah were just talking about, through FAST, through Tennessee Promise applications, through those who are part of the transcript exchange. We have ACT data because of HOPE and the eligibility required for that. So we already have a lot of the information that's going on these applications anyway. So there have been 11 other states that have had direct admissions. Direct admissions meaning basically that students do not have to apply to college. They're automatically accepted based upon the pre-existing data that we have. That also means that there's not any application fees or anything like that associated with that. With 11 other states that have done direct admissions, what they found kind of overall is that the direct admissions process increased the number of applications or acceptances to colleges, but what it still didn't do is significantly increase college going. Particularly with the group of students that we really want to focus on is those students that are traditionally not going to college because they're more at risk, they're first generation, they're economically disadvantaged. And the reason they found out that it wasn't really moving the needle that much for those groups of students was because it told them that they were accepted to an institution, but they still had no idea how much it was going to cost. So as you all know, a lot of our students will traditionally apply to colleges in the fall, but if you ask them where they're going to go, they've applied to 3 or 4 different schools, and they're not going to make that final decision of where they're going to go until March, April, May, sometimes June, because they're waiting to find out about all their financial aid. So we still can't promise them certain things about financial aid, but what we can do with this is give them a really good indication of what their financial aid is going to look like at these institutions as well as a part of this direct admissions. So in this way, in the fall of the year, students will know, we'll be able to accept the process of the direct admission, so what institutions they want to attend, and they will get an indication of what their financial aid package would look like at those institutions as well, giving them plenty of time to plan and prepare and make decisions for college kind of on the front end. So that's kind of what it will look like and why we're doing it. So Tennessee would be the first state in the nation to have a statewide direct admissions program that would include financial aid. You've heard me say a couple times that this was a pilot or that this is a project, which is very important, and I'll get a little bit more to that later and why that's so important. But the team from the University of Wisconsin-Madison and Harvard came to us with the opportunity for this study. Because of all the great work that you all are doing and have done for the last several years, people realize that Tennessee is an institution that when it comes to college access and with Tennessee Promise and so many other things that we have in place, it's kind of a great place to try this out. So we took that as an honor, and I hope that you will too, that we are seen in that way. That we were the state that they wanted to see if they applied direct admissions with financial aid. Number one, will that boost college going, but specifically, will it boost college going for those students that traditionally would not have been going on to college after high school? So this is going to be funded by a couple of different funders that you see listed there, Lemon, Kresge, and Bloomberg. And these individuals, as part of the project team, they're going to be evaluating during this process, is this working? What part of it's working? If something's not working, to be able to give us feedback, but also it will be part of a national paper that will be presented after the year's study to share with other states. And we expect and hope that other states are going to kind of want to replicate what we've done in the state of Tennessee because of the success that we have with this pilot study. So a little bit about how this will work. So again, students will not have to apply to these institutions, and they will be given upfront commitments about their financial aid. Commitments kind of with a star. We know that it's still going to be the fall of the semester, so the letter that I'm going to tell you about, it will tell them that there's still things that they have to still do. You know, they still have to graduate, things of that nature. They have to keep their grades up, so on and so forth. But it's based upon the information that we have right there at that point. We're also working with the institutions that I'll mention a little bit more about that'll be on their letter. So what you'll see is that students will receive a letter in probably mid-November. November 15th to probably November 20th, something like that is the dates that we're shooting at for. The reason it will be then is because part of the data that we're going to use is going to come from several different sources. For those that are part of the transcript exchange, if they put all the information in for grades by the end of the student's junior year, then we will have the grades for those students from that manner. For those students who have taken the ACT during their junior year, we'll have their ACT score. But then the final place that we'll have data will be coming from Tennessee Promise applications. So with a November 1st deadline for Tennessee Promise. There's going to be a couple other changes to just kind of additions that will be added to the Tennessee Promise application, and 2 of those that are really particular for this. One is we're going to ask students to give us an estimate of what their GPA is and what their cumulative ACT score, their composite ACT score is as well. you would think that students either might not know those or they might inflate them or something like that. But what the evaluators have done with these other 11 states, and they've said that with every single one, we would be surprised with how accurate and honest students are estimating their GPA and ACT. With that, I'll tell you again, that's why, again, while we're putting on the letter that we're going to be sending to them, that the acceptance and the financial aid is conditioned upon the information that we have and just knowing that it could change as well. So we'll have all that information by the 1st of November at the Tennessee Higher Education Commission from the transcript exchange from ACT and from Tennessee Promise. So to pause for a second, if students are not in any of those three, they would not be receiving a letter because we don't have their information. Fortunately, you all again just do a great job. So we have about 93, 94% of our students, our seniors, that are completing a Tennessee Promise application. So it would be most students, but not 100%, not all of them. With that, we will be able to send out letters. So these will be letters that will be physically sent out by both mail and email to the seniors. The first page, this will come from the governor of the state of Tennessee, Governor Lee, congratulating them on all of their academics and how well they've done, and congratulating them as they look forward to their next step going on to college. The second page of the letter will include all the different institutions that they have already been accepted to based upon the GPA and ACT that we already know. It will also give them an estimate of the financial aid that they would be receiving from those institutions. So that would include Tennessee Promise information, that would include HOPE, and that would also include based upon their GPA and ACT scores, the institutions that are participating in this study are sending us. If a student has a 3.0 GPA, we would give them a $2,000 scholarship. Or if they have a 3.5, we would give them a $4,000 scholarship. If they have a 27 ACT, we would give them this additional scholarship. So we would have all that. So on the second page, it would have the institution. It would have then how much would be an estimate of the financial aid that they would receive there. At this point, the student would not necessarily have completed their FAFSA, and we wouldn't have their financial aid information back, but we will also have something on there that would say something along the lines of they also could be eligible to X number of dollars in Pell or X number of dollars in other state financial aid based on need as well as that. What the student will then do is click on the QR code for the institution or institutions that they want to attend or that they are still real interested in. And then that student's information through THEC will be sent to the institutions that they've selected. And the institution will then follow up with a student saying, congratulations on accepting our offer for admissions. You are now a cougar or an eagle or a dove or whatever it may be. You're one of us now. We're looking forward to having you come to our school starting in the fall semester. But it will also then say, here are some other things that we need before you can start classes. So they are 100% accepted, and there's nothing else they need to do to be accepted. But to start classes, we will, of course, just like you traditionally do, they will still need final transcripts. They will still need to complete their FAFSA. They will still need to, at some point, select classes and things of that nature, shot records. So it doesn't mean that they won't need those things, but those things are not a part of them being accepted. And then the institution will work with the student on all of those things that are needed before the student can actually start school and enroll. Sarah, I think, has already put this in the chat, but what I wanted to point out is that we have a website that is continuing to be updated. So a couple of questions that I'll get to here in just a second that are kind of the frequently asked questions. But this, the website, as far as like what high schools are participating and what colleges will be participating and things like that, will continue to be updated. You'll see copies of the letters that are going to go out there and things of that nature. So please go to the website and check it out now, but also do so again in a week or a couple of weeks or a couple of months. You will continue to see changes and updates to it as we're getting closer and closer to the point of launching it. I wanted to address just a couple of questions that we've seen several different times as we've talked about this. The first is about the different high schools that will be selected. So unfortunately, this is just for this particular purpose of the question, unfortunately, this is a study. So of course, all of us want every single high school student to be involved, every high school to be involved. But by being a study, they have to find out, is this working? And the way that we're going to find out, is this working? Is this sending more students to college and giving them an opportunity they wouldn't have had and taken advantage of otherwise? Then there will be 3 different treatment groups. There will be high schools that all of this for this next year, for this 25-26 school year, there will be high schools that will be selected, a third of them, that their high school will not be a part of the study at all. Their seniors will not receive the letter. In any way, form, or fashion. They will not be a part of direct admission. Again, my heart hurts for that, just like it does yours, but it's the only way for us to show is this making an impact, is to have comparisons. There will be a second group that their high school will be a part of the study, but their students will receive the letter from Governor Lee, like I mentioned. The second page of the letter will include the QR code for the institution that they've already been accepted to, but it will not include any information about financial aid. And then the third group, so this will be the 3% of high schools across the state, that they will be a part of direct admissions. Their high schools will receive, all the seniors at their high school receive the letter. The second page will include all the institutions that they've already been accepted to, as well as it will include the estimates of financial aid that they will receive if they attend those institutions. So again, that's a challenge, I understand, for all of us, because we want our students and schools to be a part of this. But at this point, that's just kind of the way it's going to work, to a third, a third, a third. The evaluators are going to be the ones that will be choosing what high schools are a part of which treatment group. We should be notified probably by the end of May, early June, which high schools are a part of each treatment group. And then we will notify each high school across the state which treatment group they're a part of. We will notify the principals and school counselors at each high school whether or not they're a part of the treatment group 1, 2, or 3 that I just mentioned. The next thing is what colleges and universities are participating. So I'll pause and go back for a second. So our hope is this is very successful. This is something that the state of Tennessee and the Tennessee Higher Education Commission will continue to do. And then every high school would be a part of this moving forward. And because that kind of relates to the second question. Again, this being a pilot study, all of the colleges and universities in the state of Tennessee are not participating in this as a study either. For this first year, just as this pilot, we have all of the TPR institutions, so all the community colleges and all of the TCATs are participating across the state. And then also about 15 public and private 4-year institutions are participating as well. There's both public and private institutions in all regions across the state. So the students that will receive letters, their letter, if they're accepted, will include that they are accepted to whichever ones they are accepted to. Even if they live in East Tennessee, it might say the University of Memphis, letting them know that that's an option for them, and this would be their financial aid estimate if they chose that institution. With the TBR institutions, it will only include the community colleges and TCATs that are closest to them. And I realize that some community colleges and some TCATs may offer different programs. So for the TCATs especially, it might include 2 or 3 different TCATs around them, because students at many high schools kind of have options of which ones to select based upon what program they're going to go into. Next one is how and when will direct admission letters go out? Again, we're looking at mid-November that they will go out to the students. They will go out via email and direct mail. We will also be sending to school counselors and principals copies of the letter as well. So the copy of the kind of the generic letter, but we're also looking at whether it's through FAST or some other means, that if a school, we just know how students are. So is it possible students can't get into the email that they put in their Tennessee Promise application, so they don't get it that way? And for one reason or another, they don't actually get or keep the copy of the physical letter that they had. Absolutely. So we'll either have the letter put into their FAST account, and then as a school counselor or college access professional, you could sit down with the student could pull up their letter that way, and then you could talk to them about it. Or we'll have a way for a school counselor to go into FAST and look at the letters that all of their students received. Again, we don't want this to be a big lift on the school counselors, but if you want to be aware and know kind of who got what, that way you'll be able to do that. Last question, will students have additional steps to complete after accepting their direct admissions offer? Absolutely, they will. Just like, so again, this is just telling the student that they've been accepted and there will be steps, just like there traditionally is after an application, to kind of before enrollment. Again, you would normally think about they would still need to turn in the final transcript. And again, they're estimating their GPA when they're doing the Tennessee Promise application. That's what the financial aid offers are going to be based upon for HOPE and other things. So could that change between now and the end of their senior year? Yes, it's possible. They're going to have to turn in shot records. They're going to complete their FAFSAs, all those things that they normally would. They will still have to do those things before they start class, but that doesn't stop them in any way by at that point just saying, I accept my spot, and then being accepted by the institution to go to college and be ready for enrollment. With that, Sarah, I will open it up to questions, and I know you also had a point that Jason wanted to come back to for his presentation as well. I think.
Yes, that is true. Hopefully Jason is looking into those, rounding up those GPA decimals. Oh, there he is. Okay, before we get back to Jason's question from earlier, a couple of questions for you, Duane. One, Doug asked, will the students know about the study? Can you talk a little bit about how much the students know about the study?
That's a great question. So at this point, we haven't done anything across the state that would let the public know. And the challenge with that is what I mentioned with it being a study is we can't just tell every student you're going to be a part of direct admissions next year, because they're not, because a third of the students next year, the seniors, will not be a part of the study. So we're looking at kind of some targeted information that we'll do this next kind of over the summer, but it will be targeted toward the students that are going to be participating. We're looking at sending out a postcard in the next couple of months over the summer to students, just kind of letting of the students that will be participating in those high schools, letting them know what's coming and that sort of thing. But unfortunately, it's something that if we tried to just send out to all students and families across the state, it would end up being confusing, because we're telling them about something later they'll find out they're not participating in.
Correct. Yeah.
This year.
Yeah, this year. This year is the keyword. Okay, another question. Will this be an estimated HOPE GPA that the students are reporting? Because they, at this particular school, they report weighted GPAs to colleges normally. So how will students be expected to report?
It would be the same as what they put in for HOPE. Yes, that's correct.
Okay, perfect. And we have several questions from people about asking how they can get involved, and we've had lots of questions about this. Can my school volunteer? How can we put our name, in here to try and get involved? And Duane, I think you talked about this, but the high schools will be randomly selected.
That's good. I wanted to see that excitement that people want to be involved.
Totally.
But yes, as part of the evaluation, and we're not choosing either. Our evaluators are choosing which high schools are going to be, so that it's a very true experiment. And again, so the point is, so at the end of the day, we won't just think this worked. We will know 100% through this process that we've increased college going X number of percent by this process, particularly with these high schools or with these particular students that are more at risk. So I appreciate those who want to be involved and be active. I will say along those lines, I realize how busy school counselors are. So is there an opportunity, if your high school is chosen, is there an opportunity for you to use these letters that students get and use that for advising and everything? Absolutely. But like all of you are, you're also like, I'm doing everything I can do right now, I can't have anything else on my plate, then we're not asking you to do anything with this, other than if a student, we're probably going to send out some materials to schools and to school counselors, just so students will realize this information that I got, this letter I got from Governor Lee, is this legitimate? Is this real, or is this a scam? We want you all to be able to make sure that you can tell them, yes, this is legitimate. Please click on the QR code. It's not anything that's funny. Nothing's going to happen to your bank account or anything like that. So other than that, there's not more than that we're asking school counselors to necessarily do.
Yeah. Yeah, great point. And thanks for explaining that a little bit more, Duane. But yeah, just want to reiterate that the schools will be randomly selected. So it's not even like the evaluators are going in and picking the ones that like, oh, we think it would be good here, we think it would be good there. Completely random. And that's a part of the process. So I feel like I want to give that caveat before anybody gets sad that they weren't chosen. Okay, another really great question. Will students be able to claim a spot at more than one college? Obviously, there will be several colleges listed on their letters. So if they can claim a spot at another college, how will that keep someone else from claiming a spot? Like, will there end up being like students competing for spots at colleges?
Understood. So our conversations with the institutions are that students can claim multiple spots But at the same time, it would become kind of a nightmare for an institution if every single student that was sent one of these letters, every student claimed an institution, but they really don't plan or intend to go there. They just wanted to click them all, right? So probably kind of a compromise is that we're going to allow students to click probably 3 to 4 spots. So a community college, and because we realize there's definitely undecided students at this point in the game. So they can click a community college, they can click a TCAT, and they can click on 1 to 2 4-year institutions. So like maybe a public and maybe a private if they're still undecided in that. But we wouldn't want them to click on every single one of them, just kind of, I'm thinking about it, because that would just cause them and the institution kind of a big challenge of kind of getting to the point of enrollment.
Totally. Another great question. Will students have to have submitted a FAFSA in order to receive the estimated aid notification?
They will not.
Got it. And then someone also asked, when they click on their institution, when you're talking about selecting their institution, she asked, will this be a part of their THEC student portal? And it'll actually be, Duane, correct me if I'm wrong, there will be a QR code that the student will scan that will take them to a page that's not part of the THEC student portal. And it's a specific page for this pilot project. And they'll have all of their schools listed there, and they can select on that new page. Is that right, Duane? Okay, good deal. Okay, and then, sorry, you just answered the question about FAFSA. Sorry, did I already ask that one? I'm so sorry. I'm like reading all these questions, and you said that they will have to have completed their FAFSA. Well, they have to do their
They will not. So the financial aid that we're really going to be able to provide the student with is going to be based upon GPA and ACT. So that will,
right.
So number one, we can tell them about Tennessee Promise based upon their award, based upon their Tennessee Promise app that they've just turned in registration. We can include HOPE based upon ACT or GPA that we have, or we have the estimate of. We can also, based upon ACT and GPA, we can tell them about individual institution awards that they could be eligible for, because the institutions have told us, based upon GPA and ACT, we would award certain things. In addition to that, related to what's FAFSA and financial aid, we would just kind of have a star or something like that and say, at this institution, you could be eligible for up to X number of dollars in, say, Pell and TSAA based upon, what your FAFSA submission, because we won't have that information at that point at all.
Right. Yeah. So just to emphasize, the main thing that we're focusing on when it comes to that estimated aid is Tennessee state-funded financial aid, and maybe some institutional aid, not necessarily federal aid that the students could receive. So yeah. Okay. Those are some good questions. We'll continue to have more information go out. If you all want to bookmark that page, that direct admissions page, that page on College for TN is specifically for the stakeholders, all of you. So our school staff, our college access professionals, our higher education partners, all of that is specifically for you all. So we'll continue to update it. And just even as Duane's talking, I mean, obviously this project has really taken a lot of shape, but there are a few things that are still kind of being worked out. And so as we continue to work out some of those details, we will also continue to update that web page. One last question for you here, Duane, before I turn it back over to Jason. Will the FAST contact also be notified if we are selected? So like if the school is selected, will their person who's the FAST contact be notified?
We could definitely do that. Absolutely. Sure.
Okay, great. All right. Yeah. And if anybody else has questions, there's a full page of even more frequently asked questions, and Duane put on his slide on our website. On that webpage that I dropped in the chat, we'll also have this webinar saved and archived onto our archived webinars page. And we'll just continue to update everybody with more information as the information comes. So thank you so much, Duane, for sharing with us. I know that you've put so much time and effort into this project, and I have really high hopes that this is going to serve our students really well. So
thank you for the opportunity to share. It's exciting.
Yeah. Of course. Okay, I'm just going to read, Jason. Actually, Jason, I'll let you read it. I just want to make sure that we have this on the recording, since the chat, the transcript of the chat doesn't go to the recording that we save. So would you just mind to go back over the question that we had about rounding GPAs for us as we wrap up?
Absolutely. And Sara and Duane, kudos. Like, excellent job as always, man. And we're excited about this new pilot project. Sara, earlier when Jackie asked the rounding question, you guys, this is probably a little bit of, I've been doing this so long that question can go in different routes or whatever, but then actually looking at the question that's posed, I always think this through a compliance lens, right? If the transcript my college ultimately receives on my behalf reflects a 2.9967, then within FAST, you need to enter a 2.99, right? Because this student does not have a 3.0 in that scenario. FAST does, FAST only allows for a GPA up to the 100th spot. So in that example, if my final transcript and my final HOPE scholarship GPA printed on that transcript says 2.9967, within FAST, you should be entering at 2.99 because the student, in this case, would not have a 3.0 GPA.
That does make sense. That seems, only fair. If they don't
Yeah.
have a 3.0, they don't have a 3.0.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that does make sense. But thanks for clearing that up for us, Jason. I appreciate that. All righty. Well, thank you everybody just for participating, for being here. It's a Friday. It's close to the end of the school year. I mean, man, if there ever were a Friday, today is the one. So just thank you for being here and just for your continued dedication to your students. It means the world to us. So we'll go ahead and wrap up our recording for today, post it online. And if anybody has questions, you'll see throughout those slides that you can reach out to Jason or to me if you have any questions about what we talked about today. So I'll let you get back to your Friday, and everybody have a nice weekend. See you later.